Well, hi everyone, Sean Humphreys here. Welcome to All Things Retirement. Well, in this installment, we'll continue with our conversation on Successful Aging, a book by Daniel Levitin. And I've created a playlist. If you want to go back to the first video, this is the second video in the series, and we'll continue uploading to that playlist so you can have access to the future content. So Daniel Levitin's book's great because it helps us to build a bit of a working model for what successful aging looks like. And I think probably one of the biggest takeaways from the first video we put together was this interaction between genes, situations or circumstance, interactions with even therapists, counselors, and cultural forces, how they conspire to impact our personalities. And Levitin's contention is that personality is one of the biggest predictors of successful aging. And so today we're going to talk some more about personality and what informs personality and a little bit about personality traits. And then we're going to talk about one really important ingredient that you need to foster as you get older. So bottom line is we're trying to foster a long life, a successful life, a healthy life. And what does that look like through our retirement years? Now, if you're new to our channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the alert bell so that you get notified on future content. We're creating content quite literally on all aspects of retirement. So if you don't want to miss the future content, make sure you hit subscribe. So first of all, let's take a look at some examples from Levitin's book where he talks about neurobiological changes in the brain that lead to chemical changes in the brain that can lead to personality changes. So the one example that he uses among many is testosterone levels, and this applies both to men and women. Now, it may not apply to everyone in the same way, and there's obviously individual differences, but in general, what you tend to see is as testosterone levels go up, you see more assertiveness, more competitiveness, sometimes more dominance, even belligerence. So at higher levels of testosterone, there's this subtle influence around, I wouldn't say aggression, but that's kind of the way to describe it, aggressive characteristics. And then at lower levels of testosterone, we tend to see more politeness, a desire to get along. Now, the interesting thing about testosterone levels they do go down over time just naturally as we age for obvious reasons, but they also are impacted by circumstance. So when you look at circumstances, researchers know that when you go out on a hunt and you bag that deer, that circumstance raises testosterone levels. If you're in a fast car driving fast, that raises testosterone levels. If you are leading large groups of people and you're an organizational leader, being in that role will lead to higher testosterone levels naturally. So again, by extension, we know that as we age, physically, we see testosterone levels tend to go down, and there's good and bad about that. And we also see that the circumstances in life that lead us to situations, obviously, that would raise testosterone levels, they tend to get less, right? As we go into transition, maybe not taking on the same responsibilities at work or different organizations, that can have a negative impact on our testosterone levels. And so it's an important thing to be conscious of because, again, those brain chemicals, that float around have an impact on our personality and how we, experience retirement. So are there ways that we can maintain testosterone levels that are optimized over the years so that we have a full and satisfying retirement? Now, another brain chemical that Levin talks about is serotonin levels. And so serotonin levels help to foster conscientiousness, agreeableness, and generalized emotional stability. And so we would argue that those are good things, but they have this influence, and if we're not conscious of it, it could create some problems. As well, we know that dopamine levels have an impact on things like openness, being more extroverted, exploring new possibilities. And again, by extension, we could say that those are probably important things to foster as we get older, because the research is very clear that if you can foster engagement with your environment and other people and new possibilities as you age, that will increase the probability that you'll have a great and satisfying retirement. Getting back to serotonin levels, if they are going down, that can lead to more aggressive behavior, poor impulse control, and even depression in people's lives. And what the researchers have found is that personality changes, which some people think are kind of cast in stone, really aren't. From ages 10 to 100, researchers have found that 75% of personality changes begin taking place after the age of 40 and well beyond the age of 60. And so we go through a lot of changes during those time periods for all kinds of reasons from a personality standpoint. So you can think of going into retirement at the time that you're putting your finances together and you're getting all the ducks lined up to have a successful retirement financially. If you don't take into account the fact that there are natural forces driving personality changes and building that into your retirement plan, it's potentially going to cause some problems for you. And again, as we walk through this book, we'll explore some of the strategies that Levitin outlines. So in this chapter, Levitin sort of summarizes some of the trends generally that they see in the research around aging. So first of all, just better impulse control, better self-control, better self-discipline. Those are probably all great, characteristics or traits we want to foster. The second thing that they see, though, is flexibility and adaptability decreases with each decade. So by extension, that might not be a great thing. So again, if openness and embracing new opportunities and ideas and challenges is important to successful aging, and yet at the same time, there's this natural tendency to be less flexible and adaptable, those things are cross purposes. So how do we contend with that? And then we tend to become more agreeable. That increases significantly as we get older. We seek stability and calm, probably a good thing, but we can see what the negative implications would be as well. Right? So a lot of seniors are taken advantage of. They have such a compelling desire to be agreeable that there may be some people in their lives that can exploit that. So there's a balance to that. What's also interesting, though, is that older adults tend to become more self-content. And the mental health of older people tends to get better as well. Right? So it's a real mixed bag, and we want to pick and choose in our own lives those things we want to foster, so we increase the whole constellation of traits, personality traits, so we'll foster a great retirement. Now, one of the interesting things about the research is a general optimism that begins to become more and more significant in the lives of seniors. So they become more morally responsible and they become more optimistic. And so, that's a good thing. I mean, too much optimism can cause issues, but a good level of optimism, I think, fosters mental health based on what Levitin discusses in his book. So when he talks about optimism, he said it needs to be tempered with realism and conscientiousness, right? So generalized optimism, that's great to be in that emotional state, but we need to be realistic about our circumstances. And like he said, to be conscientious. And then finally, Levitin concludes, or near the end of the chapter, he talks about the importance of role models. And I think that one of the practical takeaways is he begins to explore sort of the philosophical and biological underpinnings of this book, and then the strategies that flow out of it. He talks about the importance of role models. He said that role models give us the ability to imagine new possibilities of what could be. And he said, be open to finding role models, in particular people that you admire, that you look up to, that are exhibiting things in their lives, particularly as they get older. And what kinds of lessons can we learn from them? Throughout his book, he peppers us with examples of incredible role models, people, well into their 70s and 80s and 90s who are very productive, very satisfied with retirement. And I'll just read you a little bit from the book. So this is from page 25. And so Levitin says, at age 89, Colonel Sanders was asked, "You don't believe in retirement?" "No," he answered adamantly, "not a bit in the world. When the Lord put Father Adam here, he never told him to quit at 65, did he? He worked until his final years. And I think as long as you've got health and ability, use it to the end." So trying something new later in life, like competitive sports, business enterprises, or artistic endeavors, can dramatically increase both your quality of life and how long you live. Openness and curiosity correlate highly with good health and a long life. So those two traits are critical to the experience of a great retirement. In my own life, just in the last couple of weeks, I've had a couple of experiences that were really great and were inspiring. So I'm an avid cyclist. I love cycling. I'm maybe not the best at it in the world, but it's something I really, really enjoy. And so recently I went to a group ride, and the group ride was with a group called FOG, Fast Old Guys. Sometimes they call themselves Fat Old Guys. And there's another group called FROG, Fast Retired Old Guys. So I went to this ride, and I'm in pretty good shape for my age, but I'll tell you, there were some inspiring cyclists there, guys in their early to mid 60s and later, who were just hammering on that little Peloton group, and their fitness was just extraordinary, their ability to handle their bike. And then actually just last night, I was on a ride that didn't go too well for me because I had some mechanical problems, but guys that were in their 50s, some in their early 60s, riding very, very technical trails at very high pace. It was extraordinary. And so being around those kinds of people where they're defining and maybe redefining what's possible from a physical standpoint, as you're getting older, is quite inspiring. So that's just one example. It could be in other arenas, but it was a great practical example for me. So the encouragement is, as you begin thinking about your retirement, think about role models. Who are some people out there that you admire that are living a great retirement? And even in the literature, and we'll talk about some other examples in this book, what are those people doing? And do you want to begin integrating some of those disciplines, habits, ideas, and thinking into your own retirement plan? So it's not just about the finances, but it's also about your mental health and your overall sense of well-being through your retirement years. Well, it's my hope that you found this overview of Levitin's book helpful. We'll continue to produce content summaries on this great book. And again, if you want to get a link to the playlist that we're developing, there's a link in the show notes to get to that playlist. So you can take a look at the other content that's being uploaded there. And if you are looking for information on retirement coaching services, we've got a link to our retirement planning resource page that talks about our services, and there's some other great resources that you can grab hold of as well. If you haven't subscribed already to our channel, make sure you do that and hit the alert bell so you can get the future content we're posting on this content and topic as well as others. Anyway, wishing you all the best in your retirement journey and your overall wealth planning.